Welcome to the podcast of School Beyond Limitations. In this podcast, you will learn how to guide your child through their school life with the intention to help them find their unique essence that will allow your daughter, your son to live a fulfilled and meaningful life. Why is it important to guide students and children through the digital world? My name is Dr. Martina Geromin. I'm the co-founder, CEO, and developer of the school model of School Beyond Limitations. If you would like your child to live a fulfilled and happy life, then this is the channel for you. Why is it important to guide our children and students through the digital world? I think it's very important because we ourselves, as parents, as educators, are not even aware exactly what the digital world is all about. We sometimes don't even know all the downfalls and all the benefits of the digital world. Of course, we do see certain benefits, but sometimes due to time constraints or due to habits that, make us use the digital devices constantly ourselves, we showcase to our children that a digital device becomes nearly, an extension of ourselves. And what happens then is that we basically give the ownership over to this device rather than to ourselves and rather than to what we know about, the possibilities and the risks that the use of digital devices brings along. And I would like to just share with you one situation that most likely happens everywhere, but it happened also within our school context, where we found out that students started to, misuse the photos of other students and started to send, not within the school context, but on their own channels. Students use lots of different channels of social media, whether this is Instagram, whether this is TikTok, whether this is Snapchat, whether this is WhatsApp or Discord. And we found out that they didn't ask other students for their permission that their, photos were used. And on top of that, they were misusing those photos in a way and with a language that we couldn't accept. So we as a school, of course, stepped in. And what is interesting to see, we held a parent meeting straight away, we held an assembly straight away, and we talked as a staff, not only straight away, this is part of our continuous professional development approach, whether this is on the basis of safeguarding, on the basis of child protection, but also on the basis of being informed and make mindful and informed choices that help our students to take the best decisions for themselves. So this was an incident that showcased to all of us and our parents as well that we don't even know all the little details what our students are exposed to in this digital world out there, especially if they are constantly connected. And it's not only they are constantly connected, it's also ourselves. And what we do, our students do, our children do. It's like a mirror. So they take it from us. If we do not take time at dinner time, at lunchtime to eat with them and to only, create these moments, these precious moments with them, and we are constantly distracted, then we pass that on to our children. If we do not know what they use as a channel and what the exchange is on those channels, and we are not informed about that, and we are not informed about what kind of impact this has on ourselves and on them, then we don't do justice to our educational role. And our educational role is really to help our students understand the risks, the downfalls, but also, of course, the possibilities, because certainly AI, social media, devices, we have lots of possibilities. And again, as a representative of School Beyond Limitations, where we say we always go beyond limitations and we want to see what is further possible, we still need to understand that we have to lay out the foundations for our students, the foundation that they know what they are doing, that they are aware, that they have a consciousness and a conscious approach towards the use of that, and that they are not becoming addicted, or when they are addicted, because to be honest, most likely, the addiction, and we know that from studies. I just recently listened to a podcast, and there are so many different podcasts out there that are based on now studies and research. It's not just a hypothesis, it's now clarity. There's clarity that today's youth is undergoing a very, very difficult time. And today's youth is, the data from the US talks about 57% of today's youth suffer from anxiety and depression. 57%. That's huge. 37% think of committing suicide. That's huge. And I think we have the duty of care to look into this and to help our children and ourselves to navigate that situation. And we see that more and more there are activities out there, such as, centers for meditations, moments of disconnection. There are also hubs, that are created, offline hubs. They're intentionally coming from the millennial generation, where they started, to invite people to come together in real life without phone. Of course, they gave, the appointment when it's happening, but then they met without phones. So, as I said, saw a podcast and listened to a podcast which connected, the brain functions to the use of social media and AI. When we do not use our brains anymore, how can we then provide our brains to develop further? They get into a lazy modality. We don't use our brains anymore. It's not a loss forever if we intervene, but if we don't intervene, then we become that. We embed into our minds that everything is done by something else. So we make ourselves dependent on the device, dependent on artificial intelligence, dependent, and we do not question anymore, what does this device do with me? What does this tool do with me? We know that artificial intelligence bots, they speed out what we give in, and they base the output on the basis of what we actually give the bot. If we say, for instance, that we are interested in gaming and we find gaming a wonderful thing, then of course we get this kind of information constantly. And I think this is the duty of care of parents in the first place. And I would like to share that I had conversation with our lawyer with regards to this, and the lawyer was very clear in saying, this is a topic, this is a field that parents need to take on board. We need to work together. We as a school, of course, we do anything, and we don't just have an assembly and talk once about this. We will embed that into everything we will be doing and we have been doing. And we will bring also our students on board with that. But students, many of our students, and the majority, I would say, are very mature and are critical thinkers. But we also know if they are addicted, if the addiction is there, and if we are addicted, then we may say all the wonderful things in front of somebody when we talk about it, but it's stronger than we are. And when this happens, then my ownership of what I decide to do is not within myself anymore. I pass it on to the device. And I feel strongly about that. We need to do something about that. And we need to showcase to young people that there is a different world out there as well. And again, I don't want to judge any social media. I don't want to judge the tools of artificial intelligence. They, if used well, are a wonderful tool to spread the word, to create something faster than before. I myself use it very often. But It's important that I have critical thinking skills, that I know what is happening with me, and that I can also say stop. It's like an addiction, like I would really compare it with any addiction, so to speak, because if the moment I see that I'm dependent and I can't let go of this, in that specific moment, I'm addicted. And that's where I need to come in. And that's where we need to create spaces, spaces of being disconnected from the online world. Of course, the online world is part of us. We use the online world as well as School Beyond Limitations because we are an online school. And at the same time, we encourage our students to be together when we are offline. Is it easy? No, it is not, because we all need to speak then the same language. But I'm a firm believer that if we educate ourselves as parents, as educators, as students, as learners, then we get to a point where we are capable of saying, yes, I'm using the benefits, but I know about the risks, and those risks, I minimize that because I know what I'm doing. I make conscious choices. And I learned that a number of years back, this wording conscious choice by two coaches that I really, really appreciate a lot still and admire. And it's the two Bowmans from Australia who always talk about conscious choices, mindful choices. If I'm in the position of making mindful choices because I can take a non-judgmental stance and a stance and an objective perspective that knows about all the little details, then it's a conscious choice, because I don't only make choices on the basis of all the information out there, pros and cons and everything, but I make the choice on the basis what also makes me feel within very well, because that's something important, that when we are giving the ownership to the outside world, to a device, to a game, to whatever the addiction may be, then I do not feel myself anymore. I don't know who I am anymore. And that's our duty. We need to help ourselves and our students reconnect with themselves. They know, we all know within ourselves that walking in the forest, for instance, if I'm doing that, makes me calm down. Why does it make me calm down? It makes me calm down because it's quiet there. It's quiet and I'm part of nature. I'm not disconnected. I realize that I'm more than, the extension of the device or vice versa. And this is our duty of care. And that's why it's so important, as I mentioned at the beginning, that we guide ourselves, we educate ourselves, in order to support our young people navigate a reality out there, which is a very complex reality. And sometimes the big problem is there comes a moment where you can't anymore, or one can't anymore distinguish between the fake reality, the virtual reality, and the reality they are living in. And I think I'm always pro opportunities to go beyond limitations. And yet, I think we need to be aware that here, freedom is not the right thing, in my view. Freedom meaning you just do and you find out yourself. Because if I do and find out myself what, for instance, alcohol means, and I start doing that and I look at it, then I think we know where that takes us. And the same, I think, is here. So this is what we are doing at School Beyond Limitations. We educate our students. It's not always easy, but we go in that direction together with the students, together with the parents, together as a team, in order for our students to be leaders of their own lives, to really bring their own essence into life. And if you think that this is something that you would support, then maybe School Beyond Limitations is the right place for your child and for yourselves as a team member of a community member of School Beyond Limitations, and then just reach out to us. You will find the website in the description.
At School Beyond Limitations, we support our students find their unique essence. Feel free to share the content of this podcast with other parents. We are here to show that your children can, indeed, bring their unique essence into life. So, reach out to us if you think that this is what you'd like your daughter, your son to experience, or apply through our website. Also, leave your comments, your questions, or your review about the podcast. Share it with others. And, as you know, sharing is caring.
Trust and you can see.